Now it's time to compare and edit the properties against the subject property. As you can see, our previous search for properties to compare has broken it down into several sections. It's listed all the active properties together, the under contract properties will be together, the solds, expired, etc. What we're trying to do is make the comparison of the active property to the subject property. You can arrange your search by the legends across the top simply by clicking on days on market, square footage, whatever your preference is to sort them by. Over in the corner here, this is distressed properties. It'll tell you no or yes as to whether it's a distressed property or not. You can delete any of the properties simply by clicking on one of the items, hitting delete, and it will be removed from the search. This has broken the properties down by their square footage value and compared it against the subject property. It says that it's worth $314,000. It's utilized the tax assessed value as a percentage of sales price, as listed over here. And this is where you need to input your professional opinion as to what the property is valued at. As we see here, we got a property as an average of 1,568 square feet listed for $327,400. Our property would be a little smaller, so we're going to value the property just a little less than that. Then hit next. The same things apply to the under contract properties. Again, we can make a comparison, search and select them by garages. You can see here that the subject property has no garage. We may choose to delete all of the properties that do have a garage. We may feel that they're not a close comparison to it. We simply delete them and we look at the square footage as a comparison to it. You see here the square footage is a little short. You may choose to remove one of the smaller square footages. It's totally up to you. So we're comparing a 1,479 square foot property built in 1990 with a similar makeup to ours. It's currently under contract for $301,500. So from here we would list it. Again, it's a little bigger, so list the sales price somewhere a little above, or what you believe the property is worth based upon your personal knowledge. Then hit next. Same thing applies here for the solds. Again, in this particular case, I want to weed out all of the ones that have a garage, so I'm just going to remove those from my search. Up on top here, you see that there is one where there's no square footage inputted. You can simply hover over the street name, copy and paste MLS listing number, go into the MRAS, checks the tax record, and then edit this. I've already done this ahead of time, so I'm just going to come across here and click on edit. Simply change the square footage. In this case it was 1,470. Click done. Will return you back to the sold properties, and now it's changed to 1,470. Again, as the previous screens, we're at 1,545 square feet with an average sales price of $299,000. Again, you need to enter the price that you believe the property to be, and then you would hit next. Before I go on to next, I want to kind of point out to you, if you have a property that is not in the search, that might be just outside of your radius that you know of, or a for sale by owner property, you can always come to the top, click on add new property, type in the details, hit done, and it will add that property back to the menu. Again, withdrawns, we've got an average here of 1,405 square feet. Maybe a little small as a comparison, so I'm going to remove one of the properties, and we're closer to the subject property We're looking at a price where $339 where it did not sell at. The weight button. This is giving us a summary of the sales price that you've imported, the square footage that it worked it out per square foot to be, and a percentage of tax assessed value that they believe the property is worth. We don't necessarily see tax assessed value as a true value of the property. However, we compare it to a percentage of the sales price. This way it helps us to identify niche areas in a given zip code that may sell for less or more. If you don't have tax assessed value, like in the Panhandle in West Virginia, for instance, they don't have that, you may choose to weight this as 50%, 50%, 0. You can change this to best suit you as long as it adds up to 100%. So the example I may choose to give here is I might change this to 40%, 40%, 20%, click on Get Average, and it will change the price accordingly. Next, click on Get Statistics. This is going to go back into the MRIS and pull statistics from 4 to 6 months ago, 2 to 4 months ago, and from current to 2 months ago. This is going to give you an idea of how much the property sold as a percentage of original list price in the given zip codes. It will identify the neighborhood, and the neighborhood is specified by your search criteria. So in this example, you remember we put in Sully Station as a search criteria, so the neighborhood would represent Sully Station. What it also does is give you a comparison as to what your neighborhood is selling to in comparison to the zip code 4 to 6 months ago, so you can get an idea of whether the market is trending up or down. In this example, you can see here 4 to 6 months ago it was selling for 311. Now it's selling for 297, whereas the neighborhood was 4 to 6 months ago 305 and is now fetching 307. To the right is the number of contracts, so you can see whether contracts are increasing or decreasing, and that may help you to price the home a little more accurately. Also down below is the month's supply of the zip code and the neighborhood. We go to next, and we're going to go to our net sheet.